people who have come here and they saw a void in our country. They saw that we were not paying attention to our own history, culture, heritage, and to each other. We divide ourselves by being on that side of the buoy or this side of the buoy.
Finally made it, we live, we live, we live, we made it, we live. We finally made it, we live. We finally made it, we live. Yeah, not many people know what it is to be right here. I told them this whole year that this was my year. I do it forever, I do it, I swear. Cause I come from it.
So, we're gonna dive straight in. And we're going to go to some places that may be taboo, but I know that you're a man of caliber and ready for this discussion.
Okay, let's talk.
So, going right in. The ever-so-present debate, if we may call it, between indigenous Turks and Caicos Islanders and non-indigenous Turks and Caicos Islanders. What are your takes on that debate?
That's a very heavy one. Well, first of all, I think that there is a misunderstanding about people who are born here and their view on people who are not born here. We look at people who are not born here with disdain sometimes. But the fact is, look at the people who actually built the country. Now, I'm not talking about the persons who were just working in government, but who were the laborers who paved those roads, who was on the construction site, who working in the hotels, who are working in places that we as a people don't want to work, or the shit jobs, who are helping to build tourism. So when you start talking about people who are indigenous and people who are from abroad, and you say, oh, I don't want them, or I don't like them, ask yourself, what have you done for the country lately? So once you ask yourself that, then you can talk. If you haven't done shit, then don't talk nothing. If it's okay for me to say that. Yes? If you haven't done shit, then shut up. If you've done something, then explain your point of view. Not in a way that it's about, this is my country, I born here. No, give me the logical point of view of why you don't like these people. They have come here. They have spent sometimes their safety to get here. They make roots here. They grow our economy, they build our homes, but then we don't want them. I feel that there has to be a path in the same way I was given a path of citizenship when I lived in the United States, when I lived in Japan. I was given a choice to be a part based on how many years I put my sweat, blood and tears into the country. And I think that we have to offer that same thing to people. So our problem is we love to jump on the whole idea of them and us. When in actuality, this country could not exist without being multicultural. Who is going to do the investment into this country? Do we invest? Why is it that in this country of tourism, of all the hotel chains, why aren't there more Turks and Caicos Islanders owning hotels, if that is the number one thing for our country? Why are we falling behind, or we were behind when it came to tourism and water-based sports? Remember in the very beginning, everything was expats. Only now our people are finally getting it. And they're understanding that we have something unique. For me, as a person who has lived abroad, I was a foreigner in some other land, in Thailand, in Europe, United States, in Japan, in India. I was the foreigner. So I know how it is to be looked down as a foreigner. But what I realized, as soon as the people understand where my heart was, they accepted me. I had a friend in Japan told me when I left, he said, I am more Japanese than they are in a lot of ways. So I think we have to think about If you say you are Christian, we are a Christian nation. We pray before every event. We pray before every meeting. Praying and doing is two different things. Are you living your truth? Are you living your values and your morals? Because we speak, but we don't do. And I think as long as you go back, if you are a Christian nation, go back to what the Bible says about accepting, about being mindful, by being open, by being loving. If God is love, now there are people who have come here and they saw a void in our country. They saw that we were not paying attention to our own history, culture, heritage, and to each other. We divide ourselves by being on that side of the buoy or this side of the buoy. Yes, the Grand Turk Islands, Caicos Islands. We spend so much time breaking down ourselves. That's why I really hate whenever anyone has Turks against Caicos kind of
Feud.
feud, whatever. I'm not for that. That's why when I invented the word Tuca, T-U-C-A, for my cultural group, there's no and. It's T-U for Turks, C-A for Caicos, Tuca.
Lovely.
There's no and. So if we get over ourselves to be more unified as a people, then we are able to mature, to be more mindful, to be more educated in our home, to be more accepting and realizing the value of those that come. Some come here and they exploit that because they see there's nothing there. That's why you can get jerk chicken faster than boiled fish in this country, because we allow that to happen. We love the fact that we are progressive. We have elevated our status. We live very well. And we think that people who come here, that when they come here, they come because they poor. Yes, they might be poor when it comes to finances, but intellectually, they are far more richer than us. They come with a plan. And they come here and they say, okay, in the next 10 years, I'm gonna do this, this, and this. We want a handout. We want a handout. We don't want to work for it. So I think that before you start talking about other people, what you have to do is investigate where they come from, their country. And I think that's where the government fell down short. If you have a problem with immigration, people coming into your country, go to their country, look at how they live, because how they live there, they'll bring that same thing how they can live here.
True.
So therefore, you can stop some of the things just by saying there's some certain policies. For example, building is one of my pet peeves. I go to certain areas of the country and I see buildings that are very similar to the buildings back in Haiti. They're not complete. They always have these iron rods. It's unsightly. Why do we allow that when we have a code that is about, you never have a Turks Islander house that's going to be like that, half finished. We allow things to happen in this country because we don't mind them coming to work and doing the shit jobs, but as soon as they elevate themselves, we want to bring them back down, or we curse them. We see a Caucasian come from Canada. He comes here with nothing. He sees an opportunity. He sees it. He builds, he puts his money where his mouth is. He could fail or not fail. Some have failed, some have really grown up, but then we get mad when they rise up. In the same way, when I started Maskanu, I asked all of my people, put together Junkanu bands, Masan bands, please be part of it. You know what we do? We won't sit on the side with our wine glass and our cigars. We want to watch the action, and we let the Haitians, the Filipinos, the Dominicans parade in our festival. Then, after the fact, they go on Facebook to say, why are those Filipinos doing this? When you had a chance to showcase your culture. Whenever we have a holiday, what do? Get the next American airline flight out to Miami to go shopping. what they do, they have their flag day. They are here celebrating their independence, their flag day. What do? We stay home, watch Netflix, watch the ball game, or travel somewhere else. So, go back to your question. I think that before our people start complaining about others, look into your heart and see. As Ms. Jackson said, what have you done for me? That's my point of view. Now, politically, we have to think about in some ways, yes, because there are people here who are born here, but don't have documentation. They grow up here, they have nothing to say. And if you don't make them a part of the fabric of society, they'll feel on the outside. And once you're outside, you want to get inside. Yeah. So how do you get inside? Well, if I can't work, I can thief. If I can't get what I want, I can kill for it. We got rich tourists here now. Let me just tap on them because the government ain't checking for me. So all these things, yes, we do have people who come here who are illegal. And the other thing is that the communities here who help these people, they are doing so because there is a connection to their history, their culture, and their heritage. They might not know these people, but they will help them because of that bond. Do we have that bond? No, because we're still fighting between Grand Turk, South Caicos, West Caicos, North Caicos, whatever. We're still fighting among ourselves. So until we can unify our intellect, our heart, and our mindfulness that we are under the umbrella of Turks and Caicos, we are individual islands, but under the umbrella, we all are kind of shielded from the rain. So we tend to kind of have people not understanding that just because I'm born in Grand Turk does not mean I am less of a Turks Islander. Just because I am born in South Caicos. I remember when I left Grand Turk one time and I went back, I spent a few years working before I came to beaches, to work beaches here. I went back for a weekend. The guy asked me where my passport is. And I was like, and it was a joke, but he was still serious because he felt that I left Grand Turk, And guess what? That same guy I saw, right, is sitting on the same wall doing nothing while when I left Grand Turk, I made a life for myself in Turks and Caicos Islands. So for me, it's a very sticky point because I know how it feels to be a foreigner. And I am for many, many years. I've been back home since 1997, 98. And for the first 10 years, people here made me feel as though I was a foreigner. Man, you went away. Well, thank you very much. Yes, I went away because I educated myself. I was not just stuck here in a mindset that was not exploring the outer world around me. And I came back to give back to my country. I didn't come back to take from it. Yeah. I came back to build up. And if you don't allow me to build up, then if you can't help me, then move on. So I'm not quite sure that is the
that was actually very brilliant. You touched on the political side of it. So I'll just ask your quick reaction to the most recent governor's appointed members to the House. What was your initial reaction to that?
It's about time. We have a voting population that is not equal to the population.
Correct.
Okay? So, I think about this. If I had a company or a business, and my company was Democratic, and I had 10 employees, and I said, okay, of my 10 employees, all of you all are helping with my company, but only you and you, because you're my cousins, only you can vote to make any changes. The rest of y'all can't vote because y'all ain't part of the family. At the same time, you're building my country. How can you not respect them? How can you not give them a chance? They've proven their point. So for me, it is not about the person being in government who is not from here. If you look at their history, all you have to look at their history. What have they given to the country? And that can tell you a lot, because a lot of people here who say, oh, I am a staunch Turks and Caicos Islander, but what have you done for the country? Not for yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you got your little piece of land, you build your house, whatever, but what have you done for the country? This other guy has built a business employing other Turks and Caicos Islands, giving them opportunities for scholarships to go abroad to study something new. They are doing something. So why are you down on them? Why are you not letting those people in the government who deserve to be, because they have proven that they love this country, that they are committed to this country, and they have shown just by their sheer work how they can represent this country. So let them represent.
And the voice of those who they're
Yes.
culturally tied to.
Yes. Now the thing is that if we see, or if we recognize and we notice that these people are pushing their agenda to kind of move TCI Islanders from out of the places and put there, that's one thing. But that's all transparent because you can see what's being done. If that's happening, then you must deal with that in a certain way. However, I don't think that we should be so up in arms, because a lot of us have gone abroad, and a lot of our family members are in the Bahamian government. A lot of TIs are in. It might be not them from they are third and fourth generation, but a lot of TIs are in. They are senators and MPs, and they have TCI roots. Why is that okay and not okay here? We have people in the United States and abroad who are doing amazing things in those countries. They are accepted. Why can't we accept here? See, we are afraid. We are afraid. We are fearful because we think that they are going to take over. And again, it goes back to, if you are strong enough to know who you are, then there's no way someone can take over what you have put in place. So I'm not quite sure I answered the question correctly, but yeah, I had no problem with it whatsoever.
Okay, great. So you spoke on the topic of immigration and the way that people who come and settle here, they tend to bring their lifestyles, their culture, their religion, their music, their food to the Turks and Caicos Islands. How does that affect us culturally, and do you believe that we can coexist in that space of their culture intersecting and living and coexisting with our culture?
Culture is learned. No one is born with culture. It'd be great when you're born, you get a pill, TCI pill, Haitian pill, Bahama pill, get a pill. No, culture is learned. So therefore, if someone is coming here and there is no learning environment, if there's no school, meaning if the culture of the country is not being lived, how can they learn? In that void, they'll say, okay, I can't learn anything. Okay, I have this country where I came from. Let me put it in that void. And that's what it is. Basically, they're coming here and we are not showing them that we're living our country because we are fighting among ourselves. Right? And while we are distracted fighting among ourselves, they are now forming their alliances and doing their thing. So, what do? I had a policy I was trying to put through about being multicultural. Very much like Canada. Canada's a great example of where they invite you in to be Canadian, but at the same time give you the openness to explore and express where you come from. Right? Because we are afraid so much that we fight against that. And the key is education. If you have a young child who has Haitian background, Bahamian background, Dominican background, whatever background, that child is in school with other people, other Turks Islanders, other nationals. But they're learning the history, the culture about TCI, folk dancing, folk music. They're learning all these things together. Obviously, culture is learned. So as they grow up, they will learn. They will still have the learning from their parents. When they get home, they'll have their Creole food and their Dominican food and their Jamaican food, and so they are then now multicultural. as we are developing, I think that the fact that we did lose a lot of our TCI culture for what it was, in terms of, because culture also must be lived.
Yes.
Culture must be lived. We can say we have culture heritage, but the culture is living culture. And what's important in living culture is that you do the things that you do. I'm not saying we have to go back in time, everybody playing marbles and this, da 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 da. No. But recognize that those are the things that glue us to our identity. See, we have no identity, and if you have no identity, you can't have pride, national pride. And the key is, if you want to build, these people have identity and pride of the country. It might be a country that's suffering. It might be a country that's corrupt. It might be a country that is poverty-based. But it's a strong sense of pride and identity, and they bring that with them. And if they came here and saw that here, they would want to be part of our TCI. But we don't give it to them. We don't welcome them to say, wow, man. We all know, I remember as a kid growing up in Bahamas, every person that went to Miami for a weekend, they went talking like Bahamians, they came back talking like Americans, right? Over the weekend, right? Hey man, how you doing, man? You know, and the same thing with going to Jamaica. You know, we tend to not see how important it is to want to be part. Therefore, those people don't have something to hold on to say, I want to be like him. You see? So
that's great.
I think that we need to show people that we love our country. That's why I show people. People can't tell me that I don't love TCI, because I have suffered for this country. You know, a lot of stuff been said about me, etc., but they cannot deny that whenever I step in front of a microphone, whenever I step in front of anything on stage, wherever I go in the world, I represent Turks and Caicos. 649 area code. Boom.
I love it. So you spoke about the multicultural policy that you were trying to implement. So I just want to dive into that a bit. Can you speak to us about your journey towards becoming the director of culture?
Whoa. You know what's so interesting? I think that journey began with my 3rd birthday. My parents, my grandmother and grandfather and my mother. Oh, by the way, just to go back a little bit. My stepfather is Henry Bowen. My father, biological father, his name is Vincent Miles Reed, a Jamaican, who came here when we were under Jamaica. We were part of Jamaica in the 50s. Met my mother, married my mother, and for some reason they had a situation and he went back to Jamaica. I grew up not knowing my father. I knew my grandparents as my parents, and my mother moved to the Bahamas. When she met Mr. Bowen, then I took on that name. So my grandparents knew I love music, because every time I hear the Marson or some Rake and Scrape or some Ripsaw music, I would be dancing and playing, and I want to hit the drum, and you know, and I really wanted an accordion, but they gave me a harmonica. So I learned as a child. I have a great picture of me standing in front of our house on West Road, you know, with my new harmonica. And I've been playing music ever since. My uncle, I say my uncle, Wader Hall, Floyd Hall's father, he taught me the basics of harmonica playing and how to play the guitar when I was a kid. Then my grandmother always made sure that she told me folk stories, Babuki Barabi, Anansi stories. She always told me about life in Laramus, where she's from. So in the Bahamas, I used to live with my people in Seagrape and 8 Mile Rock in West End. So whenever I'm in Freeport, even though I'm among Bahamians, I spend more time with the TCI people. Every summer, I came back to Grand Turk. Up until I was 16 years old, I came back almost every summer to West Road to spend time with my grandmother and, of course, reconnect with my family. When I went abroad and I realized that where I came from was an asset. You see, in America, when I went to America, the Americans were really, they didn't see me as an African American once they found out of my Caribbean background. So they treat me differently.
Okay.
See, the Caribbean people have a different mindset. You know, there's a different mindset from the African Americans and the Caribbean people. When we come to America, we don't have the chip on our shoulder about slavery that they do. Right? As a matter of fact, I got more issues from the African Americans for my blackness. And I tell my friends, I didn't know I was black until 1979 when I went to New York. So I was always then reminded of my TCI history, culture, and heritage. Then my father, my stepfather, became a member of parliament. He became the MP for West End and Bimini. So I was told, you know, to downplay my TCI background, you know, because back in the days, you know, you couldn't say you're from Turks Island. Yeah. So I was Henry Bowen's son. I became the Bahamian David Bowen. Okay. And then within that, I rose to the ranks because in the Bahamas, I was one of very few Bahamian dancers who blazed a trail for dancing within the Bahamas. Okay. I even won a few awards as Best Dancer of the Year, Best Musician of the Year, you know. And what I found interesting, the first 3 male dancers who worked in the El Casino in Freeport, the first 3 quote-unquote Bahamian male dancers, every last one was Turks Islander. Every last one, a Delancey, a Mullings, and a Hall Bowen. Okay, so when I left the Bahamas to go to New York, I was proud of my TCI and Bahamian heritage. I used that to get myself around what my other African American friends were having issues with. I used my Caribbean experience and my TCI experience to move through the circles. And I rose very quickly in New York. I finally decided to leave New York at a certain point in the late 80s. I went to Sweden, right, to Stockholm. I lived there for almost 2 years. When I worked there, again, he was an island boy in this cold place, and so they found it interesting. So I used my culture to get the gals, and boy, you know, I trust me, I really used that. Then I left. I went to India for a while to kind of find myself. I wasn't quite sure, you know, my spirituality and how I really wanted to elevate my consciousness beyond. Then I decided that, okay, I had enough of that. Went to Japan 10 years. And Japan, they have a strong sense of self, of culture. And I said, wow, these people really love their culture, and they were so impressed with where on the map, where do you come from? That small little dot, you know? So I got through so many doors using my culture. So it's only natural when I came back home, the first thing I did was form a ripsaw band with Foots, Dennis Penn, and Dudley Bean, called the Dennis Penn Trio. I was the manager for a hotel called Sitting Pretty. I'm in the prison, but I mean, before it's Osprey, it was called Sitting Pretty. Okay. All right, so I used to co-manage that with Danish Rampasad. Okay. Yes, and so I had my my ripsaw band, and then I moved to Beaches. Someone heard about my background in theater, what I've done, you know, my life throughout Europe and Asia and America, and they said they wanted a local local TCI, entertainment manager who had connections to the wider world, to the Bahamas, to New York, right? So I could understand the tourism aspect. So I have been the first and only Turks and Caicos Islander to hold that position, all right? So there, I realized that every time we meet the guest, we had to wear the Jamaican national costume. Really? Yes, because it's a Jamaican company, right? It's all inclusive. So I said, well, what's our costume? And I started looking. I remember that some girls went abroad to Miss Universe and Miss World and stuff, and they wore different things. They wore symbols, flamingo, cactus, hibiscus. There was no national costume. The Butch Stewart really liked me a lot, and his people liked me a lot in the office, so they invited me to leave TCI to work in Jamaica, in their home ground. Now, you know, that's when a Jamaican gonna import you into Jamaica, right? Yeah. So I was so impressed with that they saw my worth. So I worked in Ocherias for a year and a half as entertainment manager at Beaches Grand Sport. And it was an eye-opener because I was in Jamaica, where my father's from, and that's when I started questioning myself, who's my father? So I start looking around and I finally found my other siblings, and my father had died. Here's a great story. My father and I used to live in the same neighborhood in Brooklyn, but didn't know each other.
Wow.
My father and I lived in the same neighborhood in Brooklyn and didn't know each other. Right? Anyway, so in Jamaica, I was so impressed by their love for history, culture, how they love to be Jamaicans, even though they had severe economic issues, poverty, but they still loved Jamaica. And they had a national costume. And so I said, wow, what about us? And it's so funny because I decided now, I came home from Japan to be home. Now I'm in Jamaica. I felt maybe, I want to get back. So I resigned from Beaches, came back to TCI, no job in sight, no job in sight. I met Ralph Higgs in IGA. And he said to me, David, come see me Monday. That Monday, I had an interview with him. Following few days, I had an interview with the board. But at the end of the week, I was the new cultural officer. And then I felt I was ready because not only did I live in other cultures, so I know how it is. Not only did I live in TCI and Bahamian culture and Jamaican culture, not only was I brought up in culture, but now I have a chance to give back culturally. So that's when I decided that in this job, I will do things that will only highlight my TCI culture. I could have bought junk canoe from the Bahamas here. I could have bought all kind of stuff here, but I decided that I'm going to stick to Ripsaw music and tell the Bahamians they got their Rick and Scrape from us, and they finally got that, and they realized that, and they recognize that we have a national costume to be proud of. That Mas Canoe has brought together people from all walks of life into one place to celebrate our TCI history, culture, and heritage, and a connection to our Bahamian past. So I think that God put me on that path from day one.
From day one.
Yes. When I got harmonica, yes. From there, back to that, and I'm still blowing the damn thing.
That is amazing. So it seems like such a beautiful, it is such a beautiful story, but no doubt it was wrought with challenges.
Oh boy, let me tell you.
So what is one of the biggest challenges you faced as director of culture?
Well, the first thing was that he no T.I., he's a Bahamian. It's the first thing, right? Because people know my stepfather. My name is Bowen. Even though I'm from the Hall family, my great-great-grandfather was Peter Hall, who was the first teacher. He taught Clement Howell.
Oh, wow.
Clement Howell was the head student, the head boy in the school in Middle Caicos. My mother was the head girl.
Oh, wow.
So my great-grandfather was Peter Hall. I was born on West Road. I mean, my navel string buried right there in our Gidam tree, right? So you might not know my early years. You might not know where, but they only see me being away and I come back home. They didn't say what you got to bring. They only say why you here.
Yeah.
Right. So my biggest issue in the beginning was the naysayers. What do you know about culture? What do you know about culture? So I showed them. I formed Tuka. I developed the national costume. I made sure that Ripsaw music was not just something boys in the corner do when they're getting drunk, but you can see from the time I came back until now, there's been so much more, especially, thankfully, Lovey Forbes, Corey Forbes, the Raconaires, all these people help to maintain and sustain, but I really want to bring Ripsaw to the wider audience. And so my first issue was that whole Bahamian TCI thing, even though we all mix up like peas and rice, yeah? The fact is, there is a distinct cultural difference, but my main thing, was the naysayers. The second problem I had was religious. we tend to feel if you don't go to church and you don't do all that stuff, right, that you are suspect, right? And so you must be either Methodist or Baptist or this and that, and you got to do this. And I grew up Baptist, strong Baptist. My grandmother had me in church from day one. I used to go and recite in church. I discovered a different way of thinking. I discovered a way of thinking that not only elevated my consciousness, my awareness, and my love for the Creator, but also it gave me the idea that if my body is a temple and my God exists in the temple, I'm going to make sure that temple is strong, clean. You know, I see the Christians polluting their bodies with all the wrong things, and then when they die, we cry and moan, oh God, why you take my... No, he took himself. God gave you the intelligence to know what to put in your body, what not to put in your body. So religious persecution for some people, because I do yoga, and because yoga has a connection to Hindu, I also study Buddhism, connection to Japan, Thailand, China. They are not religions. They are ways of life. They are concepts for how to live your life. Yes? And what they would see as what they call, one of my friends told me, oh, you have all these statues and you bow down. No, these statues are just a representation of your different levels of your consciousness. That's all. So what you're doing is you are giving homage to the fact is you have breath. We don't think about that. If you guys out there inhale, exhale, and your next inhale does not happen, it's all over.
Yeah, true.
It's all over. And your body, if you keep putting in your body all the wrong things and wonder why you get sick, you know, you are not paying attention to what God told you to do. You know, the temple is not only the temple that you build as a church, but the temple that you exist in. So I don't have to go to church to go to church.
Okay.
I can sit at home in nature. Right now, we're in God's church. This is the church. It's not four walls and a steeple. It is nature. God existing through this, the soil and the trees, you know, and that is my belief. So I had an issue. Well, people had an issue with me. Even though I don't preach, I just do my thing. You would never see me out there saying anything, but I live my life. And I say, if you are an example of your religion, then you should be an example. I'm an example of how I live. So if you like how I live, you're seeing my God, yeah. My Christ.
Oh,
you see?
Awesome. So after this journey through creating Tuka, through creating the national costume that we wear, you left the Department of Culture, and like you said, you're already open to the world. You know of these different experiences, these different cultural, and mindful experiences that you had throughout the world. And I'm sure that those opportunities to return to either the Bahamas or to Japan or to Sweden, they were probably still there, and you could tap into those different assets. But you chose to stay in the Turks and Caicos.
For a number of reasons. Actually, I was offered a job at Bahama.
Okay.
To be entertainment manager at point. Before, remember, beginning of Bahama, they were hiring people, and then they had some kind of financial crisis, and it just boom. So I wasn't sure I wanted to leave the Bahamas. I had a chance to go back to Thailand or Japan. I had my son and my daughter here. I didn't want them to leave. I want them to get the same upbringing I had, or best I can, here until they're at least 18 or 19 or 20, right? So I decided that I gotta find some way to stay here. But then after I left the department, and why I left, it was very simple. I didn't think that the government was serious about culture.
Okay.
They were happy with me doing my things, but the long term, going back to the very first thing about them and us, I wanted to make culture the thing to make the connection to those that come. I really want to broaden my horizons. I really want to open up RTC to be more inviting. And I needed programs, the finances, the support for the Department of Culture was not there financially. They paid the cultural board a lot more money than they should have, and that money could have gone to programs.
Wow.
So I found it very difficult to have the do your civic duty. You know, you don't have to get so much money. Get a few dollars, yes, but you don't have to get so much money where you're taking a huge chunk out of the resources, out of the yearly budget, just to have some meetings and really not being proactive. They have meetings just to find out what I've been doing.
Yeah.
You know? So I had a problem with that, and I think that I really pissed some people off because I was very vocal about it, and I know I pissed some people off, some ministers and some other people, yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
whatever.
It happens.
It happens. So, but when I would travel, I always try to choose the most inexpensive way. I never rent a nice fancy hotel or I get a car everywhere. Only if necessary. If I can borrow someone's car, live in someone's house, I would do that. But I see our government people when they go somewhere, or they living in up in Grace Bay Club and they got car and this and that and all. I would never have that. I try to save the money, you know, and put it back into programs.
Wow.
So after the government, I didn't feel after 14 years of trying to put together, I want to put a policy for culture. I didn't get much response from that. I wanted to do more things. See, I had an idea. It was called the School Initiative. In every school in the country, every school, choose one teacher to be the cultural liaison person in that school. So that means I don't have to travel to Middle Caicos.
Yeah.
I can just call that person. We can liaise. What do you need culturally? They then can now form groups in that school. They can do things. If you are a teacher that's going to leave, then you pass it on. And all they have to do is get a small stipend. That same board member payment could have paid those teachers some extra money for their extra work. What happened? Nothing happened. So then therefore, the Department of Culture only had 3 or 4 employees. 3, basically at the desk, 2 kind of moving around if possible, but me, I can be in every place.
At one time.
So that knocked it down, right? I was so upset. I want to do more investigation about where we come from, and the important thing about the troubadour, that whole African connection. Why aren't we doing something more, doing DNA swabbing to connect back to West Africa, right? Because we know that they made up a huge part of Middle Caicos. That's why we have Bambara.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing something about that? Why aren't we connecting back with our African connection? You know, nothing happening there. So, you know, I was getting tired of whipping a dead horse. So I left. And when I left, you know what I did? I told people in the Bahamas, give me a week or so. I told people in Japan, Thailand, give me a week or so. Let me think about this. I called the Grace Bay Club. I called Thierry, who spoke to Nikhil and Mark. And I said, listen, I just resigned. I don't want to leave home. I want to stay here. I don't want to get back into the tourist industry like how I was in beaches. But do you have anything for me? On the phone, he said, you're hired. To do what? I don't know. The fact is, you're hired because we know who you are and what you can do. Come in on Monday and then we'll work out your whatever it is. So the next day, when I went in, I became the new wellness director, culture director, and entertainment director of Grace Bay Club. What that meant, who knows? You know, but they were using 3 of my talents. And then finally now, they didn't need entertainment because we had enough people coming in. Culturally, I'm still doing a lot of work culturally because every time they have VIP guests, I would do presentations, national costume. I would do a whole show for them. And then as their wellness director, I am the yoga teacher, the wellness teacher. So if guests come and they want to continue their wellness, their mindfulness, their meditation, or they want to transition from lifestyle unhealthy to healthy, I'm the guy. So now I've been there now. This is October is my 7th year. And it was the best move I ever made, you know? And I still go back to those places. As a matter of fact, I'm leaving on the 31st of this month. I'm going to the UK to do some workshops there, yoga. I'm going to Monaco. I'm going to Switzerland. I'm going to Milan to teach, right? At the same time, my son's going with me to explore Europe and the UK, you know, and see family and friends. So I'm going to, of course, wear TCI proudly on my forehead and wherever I can showcase it.
That's lovely. So we've been speaking about it and we've been talking about it so long, but can you help us in words to actually define what is Turks and Caicos culture?
Okay. See, when you define culture, it's almost impossible to do. What we do is that we take one or two things from a country and say that's a culture. So we know reggae, Jamaica. All right. For us, culture is fluid. It's always changing. What's important for us is that we take things from our culture that supports our history and heritage, that connects us to our identity and gives us national pride. There are certain things about our people that, culturally we need to kind of let go. Let go of the culture of being vindictive. Let go of the culture of being hypocritical. Let go of some of those things and hold on to the things that we should be holding on to. Our sense of love and respect for God, for our religion, for our people, to be more helpful, to respect our national music, to respect our dialect. Sometimes people look on, you talk bad, they assume that you have no education. I worked before in beaches. The front desk person speak perfect Queen's English, turn around and pure patois. I love that. I love that. And so why can't we be bilingual, So our culture is, we have multicultures. Grand Turk culture, Salt Key culture, South culture, Middle culture, North and Provo. Then on those islands, you have subcultures. And Grand Turk, where I come from, West Road culture, Overback culture, Pasadena culture. Provo, the Bight, Five Keys, Blue Hills, small pockets. So our culture is not, it's a stew. But in general, we are a people who survived. Okay? We survived slavery from the salt and the cotton. We survived the hurricanes. We survived, and we can survive even in this onslaught of those coming in, by being true to who your parents brought you up to be. So our culture is really steeped into the lessons we learned growing up. And those lessons in morals and values, we are losing them because we are watching other cultures. So we don't have something in the Bahamas. When you say Junkanoo, that's Bahamas. You can't beat that. But then we have our own kind of Junkanoo. Junkanoo is not owned by the Bahamas. There's Junkanoo in North Carolina because it's a slave thing. It's Junkanoo in Suriname. There's Junkanoo in Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana. So we can, and Jamaica, they call it Junkanoo. Same thing. So we have to be proud of, and I think our biggest problem is that because we have not celebrated our cultural expressions in festivals, and that's how you reinforce the culture in other places. Having your reggae fest, having your this fest, and having your flag day. Because we have not embraced that, then we are not teaching the young people, because culture is learned. There's no environment. How can you learn? You only learn what is there. So our culture is in our food, our dialect, our religion, our music, our sense of self when it comes to being belonger. But a belonger shouldn't be something that you feel is just this. Because everyone's connected. We are human beings at the end of it, right? And if you were a Coast Islander who was born here but went to America, most likely you speak like American, you got an American wife, you got an American passport, yes, all that stuff. But you still see yourself as a TI American, yes? The kids here are confused. They can be born, their mother go to America, they born there, only spend about a month or two as a baby, right? They come back here and you ask them, they never go back there, but say, Americans, they put their hand up. They don't see themselves just, that says something. They are not proud. They're not proud of being a Turk, because there's a stigma behind it for all the BS that we showcase. You go on Facebook. We put out all our laundry for everyone to see. I mean, everyone to see. You know, and we don't think about that. That is going. It's open to
the world. Yeah.
www.com. You know, and we don't think about that. You know, so that is it's very hard for a child to be proud of some of the BS that goes out there and say, oh, well, I don't want to be proud of that. I'm American. I'm Jamaican. You know, so culturally, we are rich, man. People don't know how lucky this country is, man. And that's why I'm here, because it's the only place I want to be. Yes, I think about leaving all the time, you know, but at the end of the day, and I think when my son hits 18 to 20, you know, I might consider doing a half-half, because it's still issues here that we have not addressed, that I think that needs to be addressed. But no matter where I go, I will live and die a Turks and Caicos Island.
Lovely. So we spoke of, you spoke of how the Turks and Caicos culture is fluid, and it changes, and it's pocketed and different areas. In the last 25 years, with the rapid growth of tourism in our country, how do you think that has directly impacted how culture is for us now?
Yeah, that's a good question, you know, because unfortunately, we are at the whims of the generic view of culture of people from abroad looking at the Caribbean. Because we are zoned as the Caribbean, we're not in the Caribbean, we're in the Atlantic Ocean. But we are even Bermuda, and up there it's zoned as the Caribbean. And what happens, foreigners from abroad view the Caribbean through the lens of what they see on the TV. If they see more Jamaican commercials, the assumption is it's like that. They see more Bahamian. So they come here with the mindset that our culture, we got steel pan, we got reggae music everywhere, people smoking ganja, dreadlocks all over the place, we got rivers and waterfalls, that we got mountains and all these things. So their idea of what the Caribbean culture is skewed by that, you see? So we have to be mindful. We have to be mindful of our TCI, what we present to the world. And I think, am I going past your question?
No, you're
okay. So I think that for us, we have to be aware that the TCI culture in the last 25 years in tourism, we had a chance to really make a difference, right? Why are we playing a steel pan at a bride's wedding? You know why? Because she saw a steel pan somewhere and she thought, but no one told her, we have steel too, it's called ripsaw. Why isn't there a ripsaw band playing at her wedding? Why aren't the people who are attending her wedding wearing the national costume? Why aren't there more activities that involve culture? I had a band for a number of years called Bowen. We play for weddings, and in every wedding I teach them how to mash the roach, how to whine, how to jump in the pot. I teach them all the TCI dance moves, because I want, even though I play their music for them, I also want to go in the bush with them also to teach them that. So I think that when you have a tourism product and you copy what others are doing, then you fall into a pattern where you are now competing with them on their level. Whereas if you now develop your indigenous culture and bring that up, then you start to distinguish TCI. So I think with this new tourist board initiative they're having right now, I hope that they bring more authentic. Go to any of the places to buy souvenirs. 99% Haitian craft or made in China. Where's the initiative to encourage our local artists, carvers? We make it so difficult for them to make a living. It's easy for them to buy something cheap somewhere else and sell it here. You know, and that bothers me. At the same time, I know our tourists need something to take back. At the same time, you know, I'm not stupid in that, but where's our arts and craft? You know, we need to have an industry where we teach young people, because they're all not going to be doctors and lawyers, etc. Teach them about doing conch shell art, doing rock art, carving, about being industrial enough to use nature to make things, you know. So I have a big problem with the whole tourism push. For many years, though, I must say, in the beginning, the tourist board took Tuka to Europe, to Canada, to United States, to show. And I was very proud of those moments when we were, you know, wearing our costumes, singing our songs, and to see the faces of people. So now they know we're not Jamaican, we're not Haitian, we're not Bahamian, we are Turks and Caicos Islanders, you know, and they sing our folk songs, and I absolutely love it. And you know, I want to say something very important here. People see me doing the same thing I've been doing since I started, 2001. And they say, nah, you're doing the same old shit. That's culture. Culture is the same thing. Culture is how you live. Now, peas and rice is peas and rice. Yes? It ain't jasmine and peas and rice. It's peas and rice. You know? Dry conch is dry conch. It's the same. So I try to be consistent.
Consistency.
That's the key, to be consistent with what you showcase as your TCI culture. Certain things change, yes, but the basic ingredients is there. And that's why I want to show. So I will sing the same song until I go in the grave. And a lot of times, the same people who tell me I'm singing the same thing, I say, okay, then you heard me all these years, sing the song. They can't sing it. They can't do the dance. But there are tourists who can do it more than them. So I can challenge anyone, you know, to say that when you question what I do, can you do it? Can you do it? A lot of guys around here, they can't even blow conch horn. We had a conch festival for a long time, and every time, who's winning? The foreigners was winning, right? Yeah, we think, oh, we island people, or we can sail boat and we can scull and we can do this and do that, but because we just, no. We want to watch the game. We want to watch the bulls and not get down and dirty. So I try to maintain an attitude of first always living the culture, because if it's lived, it's going to survive. And I want to be the image a child would see, remembering, oh, I saw Mr. Bowen, and when I was in primary school, I saw Mr. Bowen on stage today. Mr. Bowen doing the same. Oh, I remember. Yeah. Oh, yes. I can tell you when I go around. I go to restaurants. I go to offices, and I see these faces, and they remember. You know, they remember what, and then they see me still reinforcing it, and that is the most important thing for me. Is for us to live the culture, live your heritage. Come to Cheshire Hall, learn about the ancestors, learn about how we got here and how lucky we are to still be here.
Yeah, great. So would you by any means say that our culture is dying? And if so, how can we save it?
Okay. If culture is fluid, then it changes. It changes. But you see, when you get a tree, you get a tamarind tree, eventually the tamarind gonna die. But then the seed is there for another tamarind tree.
Yeah.
Yes? So even though they are part of a culture that is not being exposed, in a way it is dying, there's still the seeds of the culture still in our people. We can revive it. All you gotta do is pour some water onto it. That's it. Just pour a little bit of water. And for us, if a plant's dying, you pour water onto it, it revives. For us, you know what our water is? Us. Pour people. Us into it.
Yeah, okay.
Let's pour us into it. So we are losing a lot of it in terms of the older folks who know much about the information they're passing on, but we still have a choice to, at this point, start to database, start to collect, start to showcase all these things and expose them to the general public and the wider world.
Great. So this has been such an amazing conversation. I wish we could stay here all day and chat.
I could be all day myself.
I've got one question for you. hypothetically speaking, if you could get $1 million, no figure and no red tape of board members saying and weighing in, what would you do to revitalize and enhance and explode the Turks and Caicos Islands culture?
All right. I think the first thing is re-education of our people.
Ah, beautiful.
Put some money into re-educating our people. So have a place on each island, right, that you go. It can be a weekend thing, it can be a family thing, to learn about the culture, to learn, even though on the island you live, you might not know about the island. So in the same way, you have tour operators who must know about, a lot of times, these guys around here are making things up.
Yeah.
All right, just to give the tourists something. So I would say my money will be spent in the beginning on re-educating our people, putting up more billboards, visualization signs of all of our national symbols, all of our national heroes, and we have more than one hero. We have many heroes. Billboards of the national colors, billboards of children in national costume. I would say that in every government event, there has to be a cultural component. I would say in every festival, support a cultural performance in a festival. So my money will not be on for the tourists, because people always think, oh, culture, tourism, culture. No, the people. Because once we live the culture, then the tourists will get it, boom, just like that. And then I think that $1 million will triple and double fold for us. It'll come. It's the best investment. You can't beat that. It's the best investment. Better than crypto. So
that's great. So
my money's on my people.
Mr. Bowen, you are definitely a trailblazer, without a shadow of a doubt. Definitely a trailblazer. What would you say you would like to be your leaving legacy? What would you like to leave behind? The same breath that you talk about as it goes up and it comes back down as we're breathing. God forbid, whenever that stops, what would you like to be said that David Bowen left behind?
That David Bowen left behind the essence of his passion for his love for his country, his history, his culture, and his people.
That's so lovely. Well, this has been Trailblazing Conversations, Mr. Bowen. It's my esteemed pleasure that you took your time out to come and have this conversation with me today. I am filled now with the passion to go out and be more cultural as I live my day-to-day life. Thank you so very much.
Blessings, blessings. Thanks. And thank you, my people.
Bro said watch everyone that's around you, them boys that you keep round ain't your G's. I told bro that my face card good like US money in the West Indies. They won't talk about cash, but long time since cash been king. I'ma do a 419 straight P's. Hundreds in the trap, real G's rave me. Some man won't blow trees, but word on the street is you broke, but we don't give off good leave for free. So even the ops get things off me. The man want throw bees in